No one volunteered for Kelt 9. No one requested it. And no one ever came back from it unchanged. Kelt 9 was classified as a Level 5 Deathworld. Unstable atmosphere, violent weather cycles, predatory life forms, toxic terrain. Even the ground itself could kill you if you stood in the wrong place for too long. Officially, it was a mining colony. Unofficially, it was where problems were sent to disappear. So when Daniel Reeves received his transfer order, he wasn't surprised. He read it once, then again, then quietly set it down on his desk. Effective immediately, the notice read, Inspector Daniel Reeves is reassigned to Colonial Oversight Station Kelt 9. No explanation, no appeal, no discussion. Across the room, his supervisor avoided eye contact. Daniel already understood. He had filed too many reports, too many violations, too many complaints against powerful companies that preferred silence over accountability. And now, they were returning the favor. Kelt 9 wasn't a reassignment. It was a message. Stop digging. Daniel packed lightly. He didn't argue, didn't protest, didn't even ask why. Because deep down, he already knew the answer. 3 days later, his shuttle descended through the toxic skies of Kelt 9. The planet looked exactly like its reputation. Dark, violent, alive in all the wrong ways. Lightning storms crawled across the horizon like living creatures. Massive shadows moved beneath the surface of acidic swamps. The air itself shimmered with chemical instability. This place passes inspection? Daniel muttered quietly. The pilot didn't laugh. You'll understand soon, he said. The landing was rough. The colony came into view, a cluster of reinforced structures barely holding together against the environment. Metal walls scarred by impact. Defensive turrets constantly rotating. Emergency alarms echoing in the distance. It didn't look like a workplace. It looked like survival. As soon as Daniel stepped off the shuttle, the smell hit him. Burnt chemicals, rust, something worse. Underneath, a man approached him, wearing a stained uniform and an expression that suggested he had long since stopped caring. You the new inspector? He asked. Daniel nodded. The man let out a dry laugh. Didn't think they'd send another one. Another? Daniel asked. The man didn't answer. Instead, he turned and started walking. Come on, he said. Try not to die on your first day. Daniel followed. And immediately, he started noticing things. A cracked support beam. An exposed power conduit sparking dangerously close to a fuel line. Workers moving without proper protective gear. Improperly sealed containment zones. He stopped walking, pulled out his tablet, and began recording. Violation, he said quietly. The man turned back. What are you doing? Documentation, Daniel replied. The man stared at him, then shook his head. You're not going to last long. Daniel didn't respond. He just kept walking, and kept recording. By the end of the first hour, he had logged 47 violations. By the end of the day, over 200. Nothing on Kelt 9 met regulation standards. Nothing. It wasn't just dangerous. It was engineered to be dangerous. Corners cut. Safety systems disabled. Maintenance ignored. Because fixing those problems would cost money. And the company running Kelt 9 didn't like spending money. Workers were expendable. The planet itself became the excuse. Deathworld conditions, they said. Unavoidable risks. But Daniel saw the truth. Most of it wasn't the planet. It was negligence. Days turned into weeks. The storms didn't stop. The dangers didn't lessen. But neither did Daniel. He worked through it all. Dodging acid rain. Avoiding territorial predators. Navigating collapsing tunnels. And every time, he documented everything. Calmly, precisely, relentlessly. The workers started noticing. At first, they thought he was crazy. Then, they started talking. Quietly, carefully, telling him things, showing him places, revealing the parts of the colony no one was supposed to inspect. And Daniel listened, and recorded, and filed. By the end of the first month, he had logged over 800 safety violations. That's when the warnings started. Stop filing reports. Focus on survivability. You're not here to fix things. Daniel ignored all of them. Then came the accident. A containment breach in one of the deeper mining sectors. Toxic gas flooding the tunnels. Workers trapped inside. The alarms failed. Of course they did. Because they had been flagged. Ignored. Logged as violations. Daniel didn't wait for orders. He He grabbed emergency gear and ran toward the breach. Others followed. Not because they were told to, but because he moved first. Inside the tunnel, visibility dropped to near zero. The air burned. Systems failed. But Daniel kept going. Guided by memory. By the reports he had written. He knew where the emergency shutoffs should have been. Except they weren't operational. Another violation. So he did something else. He rerouted power manually. Improvised. Risked everything. And somehow, it worked. The gas flow slowed. Enough time. Enough chance. Workers began escaping. One by one. Alive. When it was over, Daniel collapsed outside the tunnel. Exhausted. Burned. Barely conscious. But alive. That incident changed everything. Because for the first time, the colony saw what his reports actually meant. They weren't paperwork. They were survival. And someone else noticed too. Back on Earth, the files finally reached the wrong desk. Or maybe, the right one. Because 800 violations couldn't be ignored anymore. An investigation was launched. Quietly at first. Then very publicly. The company tried to deny everything. Blame the environment. Blame the workers. Blame the planet. But Daniel had evidence. Detailed. Precise. Undeniable. Every violation. Every ignored warning. Every preventable danger. The truth spread fast. Faster than the company could contain it. And suddenly, Kelt 9 wasn't just a distant death world anymore. It was a scandal. Executives were removed. Operations were suspended. Emergency reforms were ordered. And for the first time, Kelt 9 started to change. Safety systems were repaired. Regulations enforced. Protections implemented. The planet was still dangerous. But now, it wasn't deadly by design. Months later, Daniel stood at the edge of the colony, watching a new transport arrive. Cleaner. Safer. Different. Someone approached him. "You could leave," they said. "Transfer approved. Back to Earth." Daniel looked at the colony. At the workers. At the systems that were finally starting to work the way they were supposed to. Then he shook his head. Not yet. Because there were still things to fix. Still systems to check. Still lives that depended on someone paying attention. They had sent him here to break him. To silence him. To make him disappear. Instead, he had done what he always did. He looked at the problem. And refused to ignore it. And in doing so, he didn't just survive a death world. He exposed the truth behind it. Because sometimes, the most dangerous thing in the galaxy isn't the planet. It's the people who decide how much a life is worth.